Welcome to B-Flow Sessions, the podcast where we help you find and stay in the flow on the water and in life. I'm your host, Brad Burton. Join me as I sit down with paddlers, athletes, and adventurers who are all seeking the flow. B-Flow Sessions is brought to you by our friends at Pucon Kayak Retreat. Are you dreaming of a Chilean whitewater escape this winter? Picture turquoise rapids, warm sunny days, and world-class rivers for every skill level, all based out of a riverside retreat built by paddlers for paddlers. If that sounds like your kind of winter, then Pecan Kayak Retreat is the place. To learn more or to book your dream kayak trip, reach out to me directly at bflowkayak@gmail.com and I'll help you get connected. B-Flow Sessions is powered by Dagg Kayaks. Wherever there's water, Dagg Kayaks will help you find your flow. Team-tested, paddler-proven designs for all paddlers and all water. And thanks to our partners at Sawyer Paddles, Stohlquist PFDs, and Level 6 Gear for keeping us in the flow. Welcome to the next episode of B-Flow Sessions, and in this episode, I am joined by the person who epitomized the late 90s, early 2000 sponsored freestyle athlete. I mean, he is like, if you look up like Extreme Games, X Games, Gen X, skateboarder, but apply it to kayaking, you will see a picture of him there. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rusty Sage.
Thanks, Brad. Good to be here. No, I appreciate the call, and surviving as a parent now.
Yeah, it's amazing how we all go from professional kayaker dirtbags to now being suburban dads, and it's like it almost happens overnight. But it's amazing how the years go. But, if anybody's familiar, Rusty was one of the premier kayakers of that generation, kind of one of the first to be in a lot of the videos. He was one of the first Red Bull sponsored athletes. He was a multi-time world champion in a lot of different disciplines, from surf kayak to freestyle, and was one of the preeminent ones, one of the first ones to really start launching big air and going out and surfing big waves on the Ottawa and the Slave, and was the winner of the first ever IR big gun aerial competition, where everybody submitted aerial videos, and he won the first one with this big, huge Pan Am that he launched on the Slave River. And I surfed that wave a couple years later after Rusty did, and I was like, I am not going to go as big as he did, because I do not want to end up in that hole.
Yeah, no, it was I appreciate the intro, Brad, and I think that I found a passion for kayaking over the years, and really, especially lately, trying to transfer that passion into the next generation and working with my kids and local kids here. And so it's, as my kids say, like, oh, you used to kayak, Dad? You used to be cool. I'm like, thanks, guys. No, but it's helped me guide my way through life in a lot of different areas. And it's one of those sports that just, it brings you to unique spaces, and there's always a challenge in front of you. And that's what I do now for work, because I'm a project manager. And you always kind of, project management is just solving problems. It's like a big rapid or going to a new country. It's just a big problem, and you're just solving it, and you have a leg up with that, because there's no harder thing than putting your life on the line and trusting others than like doing class 5 plus kayaking. And so I'm fortunate to have that, and doing my best to train my kids and their friends and locals around here as well.
That's awesome. We can't wait to hear about all those endeavors that you got going on. But let's rewind to the beginning. How'd you find your flow originally in kayaking? How did it all start for you?
Well, my mom was a raft guide, so back in the 80s, so I was always on the rafts, and I remember going down the raft, and I was like 7, 8 years old, and I saw this kid that was my age, and I was like, I'm going to do that. That is something that I'm going to do. He was my age, and he was kayaking. And so then I kind of built and just got that drive. And once I got that drive to get into that boat, it really was no looking back. And so I started in slalom. There was a kid that had a slalom crew, so I really trained a lot in slalom. And I was like, this is maybe not my thing, but I really like paddling. And then I got into my first freestyle competition, and then I started winning. And then it
Hmm.
really started to kind of build. And then there was like a summer of '98, I think, where I won just about everything. And it was training with EJ. It was going out to Colorado, going out to New Zealand, going out and just traveling and pushing it. And that's really where I took that step from being like kind of good to great, was really finding the passion, but also getting that feeling of I do belong here, and this is what I'm going to continue to do for quite a while. So yeah, it was just like all of those things kind of built up and keeping the drive going.
It's funny, like hearing you speak and getting to know you over the years, and we competed against each other, paddled with each other a little bit, but hung out, partied, things like that. The image that people get if they just see you in a kayaking video or on in a brochure or something, like you have to almost play to a character during that time, because like the sport was promoting characters like you and EJ and Corin and Dan Gavir, and so and people who knew me may have thought the same thing. Like you portray this image, I still remember you wearing like the big Oakley sunglasses, and there is some ego there, and we do want to like push ourselves and be the best and compete. But at the end of the day, like everybody's super humble, super kind, and people that you just love to hang out and talk to. And so, like I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, I remember seeing you on posters and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? Like, obviously he's really good, but, and then getting to know you, I'm like, oh, this guy is not only one of the best kayakers in the world, he's super chill, and he's, just totally cool to hang out with.
It's funny, especially like my name, right? It's like two like Rusty Sage, like somebody's like, it's like two tangible things,
Yeah.
right? You don't really get that with a name, and it's like they're like, oh, you should be some cowboy rodeo star or something. So there's like it kind of morphed, and especially like I was self-driven, and I knew sponsors were the way to pay, the
Yep.
way to make this thing work, and so they promoted me in different ways, and you kind of you live that role, right? I mean, I
Hmm.
got the piercings, and I like always had like those big glasses and the blonde the bleach blonde hair, and I was like, well, let's create my own image, but also let's push this a little bit, and let's see what if not drama, I would say, but always just like have that caricature of kind of whatever you make of it, just to kind of get out there. Maybe the before the influencer's influencer.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I kind of think like you and Teo were kind of the first two to really, maybe Dan Gavir was like the first one to really do that, and probably Corin even before him. But of people of that late '90s, early 2000s, it was definitely you and Teo pushing that envelope and building this persona. And sometimes, like I said, the persona you see on TV or on a magazine cover is not. It's almost like a character that you play on a TV show.
Yeah, no, and Teo and I like because him and I kind of got our Red Bull helmets at the same time,
Yep.
and and so him and I, we had our different battles. He was always the
Sure.
creaker
Yep.
and like doing the extreme stuff, and then I was the freestyle guy doing kind of the freestyle, free
In
flow
the big
thing.
air. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he could never do some of the stuff that I could do, and I could never do some of the stuff that he could do. But we did find a common balance, but there was always a healthy competition between us.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was, it added to some of the drama. So when we competed at Gorge Games, for example, we would, he beat me, and I was like, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna train harder next time.
Yeah, it's fun to have those people in the sport that you that push you, and healthy rivalries. I think in the sport are a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, totally. No, it was good. And then like you mentioned, Dan Gavir, he was another individual that I really followed a lot through my career, and just following him with kiteboarding and mountain biking and whatever you call it. I wanted to be well rounded, and he was my guide on that.
You take us through, kind of after that early 2000s. Like you said, from like '96 to those early 2000s. I mean, you were one of the dominating people of the sport. Um, then how did your kayaking evolve from them going on through the 2000s? and maybe even take us all the way up to present day.
Yeah, no, it's a so 2005 I graduated college, and I'd always been kayaking and I'd always been going to college full time. So I had an
Yep.
engineering program, so I was always at 12 units a semester, and so I got my mechanical engineering degree in 2005, and I bought a house a year or two before, and I'm like, let's push and let's get this thing done. And so I refinanced the house. I got, a lot of money in my bank account, and I went to 7 different countries. I went to Brazil, Portugal, you name it. I traveled everywhere, got Turkey, got all of I really made the effort to get out there. And then I came back and I was like, wow, that was cool. Okay, so how do I do that again? And I really needed $50,000 to $100,000 a year to make this thing work.
Right.
And my sponsors at the time were like, there's this little kid called Dane coming up, and like you kind of gotta like you need to make a decision right now whether you're going to be full-time kayaking or full-time engineering. And
Right.
so it was what I decided was, and I said, well, I need to get paid more and to make this thing work. And not just for my own pocket, but just so I'm not in debt, because I
Right.
need to be out there and across the world. And so I made the decision to work. And so what I decided was we're going to stay kayaking locally, and we're going to be doing all the rivers locally, but I'm going to be doing engineering. And so I'm going to be
Yeah.
I'm going to be working full time as with an engineering consulting company and understanding how that works. And that was 2006, 2007. I did that for about 2 years. And I said, man, this sucks. I want to get out there. And so, as far as so I kept paddling, staying in shape just enough. There's local runs. I lived in Reno for the time, and I really kept finding myself back up in Hood River, Oregon, and back on the coast in the ocean. And I found that those were my 2 real passions. And so I got this spur up my butt to say, let's expand this kayaking thing. Let's open it up to the ocean. And I had this crazy hair, let's try and learn how to flat water sprint. And let's sprint and let's really understand the forward stroke.
Yeah.
And so I moved to Santa Cruz. I quit my job, moved to Santa Cruz, bought a van, and then lived for about like a year or so, did some traveling, and then I bought a surf ski, and then I met up with Brett Reitz, who's a local flatwater, wild water guy, and then I also was out on my kiteboard a bunch, kiteboarding, surfing, living in Santa Cruz, and doing surf ski, and I found a local crew, and so I'm still mid to late 20s, but like totally different from the rivers, as you can imagine. You're out open ocean downriver, paddling 20 something miles, catching open ocean swell, and like I go from short twitch strength to now you need long twitch. Now you need to be doing this thing for 3 hours, and you need to have a proper catch, and you got the wing paddle, and it's exhilarating on a different level. And of course out there doing my surf kayaking as well. So I think what's important for any young or middle ranking paddler is to continue to evolve, because the paddling there's so much facets to it. Yes, there's always class 5, but there's other things. There's the slalom, there's the flat water, there's the freestyle, there's just outrigger. I joined an outrigger crew for a year.
Oh, cool.
And so they had me leading, and after the first couple of passes, they said, no, you don't lead anymore. You're number 2 chair, because you have too high of a rate, but you're a powerhouse. So if you have somebody slow down your rate, and then you push, and then redid a sprint championships, replaced at every sprint championships, and the coach recruited me, so I started doing that. And so there's just other things to just continue to open your mind, because sometimes you just get bored. doing
Right.
one thing, and you get accustomed to it. And for me, I wanted my brain to like open up, and I had this dream of being on the Olympic sprint team, and I started like really understanding what it took to get there. How are the Hungarians
Okay.
strong? And started following that stuff. So I think, it just evolved into something totally different you wouldn't expect. And then I come back and back to Reno after I did about a 3-year stint in Santa Cruz, and then I got more back into extreme. And so I
Okay.
started traveling up and down the Sierras and doing more high Sierra runs, overnights, that type of thing. So then it kind of, all of that still complemented that aspect as well.
Sure.
So yeah, so then it kind of, then I got back, then once I had a family, the week before my wedding, I was on Royal Gorge, and yeah, and I got stuffed in a sieve. I got a stern sieve,
Mm.
and I was in a very bad space where you're in that slow motion stern sieve, and then your head's above water, then it goes below water, and you fight, and I fought,
Yeah.
and it was only when I gave up that it let me through. And
Mm.
so that played on my head for a while. It took me a couple years to get back into class 5 after that.
Oh wow.
So it was we all have those moments, but that was an eye opener for me, and just like you crash, you slow it down a little bit. And so then
Yep.
it's focused a little bit on the family. 2 years later, had a kid. And then so, now my youngest is 11 and a half. So just kind of, you adjust, you flow as the river flows and meanders, and sometimes it has a big flat stretch, and sometimes there's a big rapid.
That's right. Well, I think that story would definitely constitute for one of the questions I ask about flood, about one of the maybe mishaps. But what about a perfect flow day? Can you think back to your time? It could have been in any aspect of your paddling career, whatever discipline you want to think about. A day where everything was just perfect on the water and it all clicked. It was just like when you replay the life back in your mind, you come back to this day.
Yeah, I mean it's like one of those days that's great and it's sad at the same time, and I'll
Mm.
explain
Okay.
that. It was a day we did Fantasy Falls, and so we had an amazing crew. Ben Coleman, Lewis, Johnny Chase, and this kid Abel. A fantastic crew. And it was an overnighter, and it's one of those overnighters that I'll never forget, where we just kind of, you just heckle the boys,
Right.
right? Where you just kind of like, you just heckle each other, and you're like, what idiot brings that kind of sleeping bag with you, or just stuff like that, right?
Sure.
And so it was good banter. Some of the boys lipped, some of the big ones, and then it was just one of those, they get down to show me your tits, and then like one person swimming, the other person swimming. I'm trying to save them, and I fall down the rock slab, and they're heckling me for not. So that was so yeah. There's this rapid called on Fantasy Falls called "Show Me Your Tits," and I think I think it was like, so I don't know how it got the name, but it's ultimately it's a big kind of guides down. It's this huge slide, looks gigantic, and there's a big hole at the bottom with a big pool. And so it was kind of, but like I was saying earlier, is one of those days where all the boys are having a good day, and the boys are having, and a good weekend. And so it was, and then they swam. Ben swam. If you get stuck in the hole, you're going to swim. And
Right.
so then, two people swam, and then Johnny came through and just greased it, and everybody was like laughing, and I'm tumbling down the side of the mountain trying to get, help people out. And so then everybody else runs it, and we end up having an amazing day. So that was one of the best trips, at least in recent memory, where, me being a bit of an elder statesman now, was with the newer crew of the 20 and 30 somethings, and I was, they looked up to me. I was able to hang. I didn't put the old guys to shame or anything, and I felt welcome with the new generation, and they were happy to have me, and so it was really it was a special trip that I will always remember.
Hmm.
and it is unfortunate that one of the members died afterwards, and so it's
Mm,
like one of those you kind of take you cherish those moments because everybody was like surviving and
right.
stoked, and then you get to see that individual and have that memory of them being just stoked on a variety of different things. And so,
Sure.
and then, so it's like things happen, right? So yeah, so that was probably one of the better times, and that sticks in my mind as one of the best trips as well.
Wow. Well, take us now to the current and what you're doing in your local community with getting kids involved in kayaking.
Yeah, no, I started a nonprofit about 2 years ago with a couple of other folks, but ultimately I kind of pushed, and it's called the Nugget Slalom Club. And so we have this little put in here at the Put in the Chili Bar that's called the Nugget Campground. And there's gates up there. So there's about 19 gates that a friend of mine's been maintaining. And I was like, we got to have some kind of club here. There's got to be some type of group that supports slalom. And how do we do this? And also, hey, my kids are 7 and 10 years old at the time, and selfishly, let's get them into it. But also, what I
Sure.
found, I coached my kids soccer, and I coached my kids wrestling team as well. And what I found is that kids learn really well with other kids. And
Mm,
so, like, when there's other kids there, there is no, not as much complaining or like, excuses. It's like, hey, well, if he did it, I can do it. And so that was a little bit of the philosophy of let's just get these kids on the water with other kids, and there'll be some that are better or like, more experienced, more advanced, but then there will be those couple that really want to get to that point. So, right now the club, we have about 24, 25 members.
wow.
You pay an annual fee, but then we also have two sheds that are at the put in of the club, which we have about 15 slalom boats out there. And then I'm also working on getting extreme slalom. So the idea is that this is an Olympic discipline for both
Yep.
regular slalom and extreme slalom. And so we have the gates up there. And so, and so we do springtime, we do pool sessions and clinics out on the water. And then we have a summer camp as well, that we do 3 days where we do slalom. We have a coach from Czechoslovakia and Ukraine that are coming this year. And
Oh, cool.
we got CPR and then river skills as well for that 3 days. And then in the fall, we do Monday evenings where we paddle kind of at the local park. And then we're trying to do every Sunday where we get kids kind of on the water with our Czechoslovakian coach as well. So it's getting kids on the water. That's the ultimate goal, and having them learn from each other. So yeah, it's been good.
That's That's awesome. I love how so many people in the sport are doing stuff for the youth. I mean, I always, from teaching kids freestyle camps at NOC, which I'm going back to do this summer.
Nice.
This will be, by the time your episode drops, it'll probably be about the time I'm leading that. But I always led those kids trips at NOC, and then working for like Huge Experiences, which was an offshoot of like Adventure Quest.
Oh
But
yeah.
now, seeing EJ, coming up with his boats when his kids were young, and now Corin coming out with young boats, young kids boats. But like you doing stuff that you're doing, Tommy Hillicky up on the salmon doing a bunch of kids, things.
Yep.
I think it's just wonderful how so many people, as we get older, we realize that for the sport to grow and the sport to continue, we got to have that youth movement, and it seems like it's really going well, across the
Yeah,
country.
it's an interesting because West Coast is tricky because the competitions have died off a bit, and so
Hmm.
that's like we're trying to figure out because the philosophy of like how did we have so many competitions back then, and it's hard because a lot of those folks are just getting older and tired and they don't want to run them anymore. So now it's
Yeah,
kind of
it's expensive, and the insurance, and
it's tough, yeah, insurance. And so now it's kind of my generation or, us to try and figure out and get groups together to try and figure out how best to help these kids develop. And also, West Coast is unique. We have such great opportunities. But it's, we haven't had too many events. So we do about 3 events at the slalom a year, but they're small. I mean, we got maybe 15, 20 folks that show up on them. When I remember when I was growing up in the early 90s, there'd be 30 to 40 folks out there, you know.
Sure.
So yeah, I think the key is always through the kids and youth
Yes.
development and,
Yeah.
and any part that I can play in that, and especially like I said earlier with the sport, it's such a fantastic sport. Yes, there are risks, but it brings you to some amazing places in the world and gets to see different things that very few of the population can see and experience. And I really want to show that to my kids.
Yeah, and I never got very proficient in any other outdoor pursuit like snowboarding or skateboarding or rock climbing, and dabbled a little bit in mountain biking. That would probably be the closest. But to me, it's really unique in that there's so many different disciplines within paddle sports, and people can really bite off whatever they want. If you just want to do slalom, if you just want to do freestyle, you just want to do extreme, you just want to be a class 2, class 3 paddler, it doesn't really matter. The exhilaration you're going to get and the places you're going to see, and probably most importantly, the people you're going to be around, all those things are going to be incredible that you really can't find in other walks of life.
That's right. Yeah, I mean it's funny because being a parent of kids that are in second grade or so, their friends, which are no affiliation with the river at all, and then they moved here, just and so but now we're seeing them get on the river with their family and just be stoked, and it's like a great class 2 section that they're just experiencing, and we got to share with them at the beginning and kind of guided them through their journey, and now they're like nearly river bums. They're getting ready to go on trips and stuff. It's really cool. There's such a wide variety where you have the extreme guys down the street that live next to me that are doing class 5 every weekend, and you have the other families that are doing class 2, and they're kind of both getting that same kind of exhilaration.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah, for sure. Let's go into some flow advice now. So, what advice would you have for both a new paddler? It could be of any age. I mean, certainly you're experiencing a lot of this with younger people, but maybe even advice that you would give. Let's eddy out and take a quick break. Do you need a break from the cold of a North American winter? Then let's head south to the best whitewater on earth at Pucon Kayak Retreat. Email me at bflowkayak@gmail.com to learn more about how you can take the ultimate paddling adventure in the heart of Chile. Now let's peel out and head downstream. Is somebody listening to this who has a young paddler? And then what advice would you give to an old guy or gal who's returning to the sport after some time off?
Yeah, I think, young paddler, positive experiences. That I just took my boy down, and he like led his first class 2, and he was nervous.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
and that's totally expected. And I just, you want to shelter, but like also not overwhelm. And I've seen
Right.
younger kids get that scared, and they're done.
Right.
Usually forever. So I'd say positive experiences and lots of them.
Yep.
Candy always helps too, or ice cream.
Yeah.
And for the older paddler, I've seen this with my wife's dad, and he's in his 70s, and he's been getting back into it and getting up with the kids, and like that was his goal. Is we got to do the Rogue River, and he was able to paddle along with our kid last year, and that was a big step. And I think for him, it was a lot of warm up and a lot of
Yes.
real kind of getting that feeling back. He told me his training regimen just to get on a class 2 was he paddled in flat water. He went up the canals, and just to kind of get used to getting in and out of the boat and go back to the basics. It's hard for me, especially because I'm like, I've done class 5. I can do that again. But then you also realize that was when I was at a different point in my paddling. Let's start
Hmm.
baby steps and let's make sure that I know how to make that ferry, make that eddy, and all of that. So I think, the advice to somebody older that's getting back into it, have that warm up, have that mentality of I know I can do this, but let's just have a goal at the end of it and do those steps to get to that goal. I'm rehabbing my knee right now. I'm not going to be able to run in anytime soon, but I'm just trying to put weight on it. And so,
Sure.
like the crawl before you walk, and listen to your body. That's one thing I've learned with doing this rehab is if pain happens, reevaluate, see what you can do, adjust.
Right.
Don't be afraid to talk to a professional to make sure that everything's working right, that there's, and just adapt. But yeah, take it slow.
What I've discovered in my return to the sport is now this is true only if you already had a certain skill set to begin with. I think those skills stay. It's your body's response, that mind to body connection slows, and you're not as in good as a shape, both cardiovascularly, muscular endurance, muscular fitness, explosiveness, all of those things don't fire as well as they did. So getting the skills to then translate to the boat are much more difficult. So I believe as we age, fitness actually becomes more important than skill. Now, that wouldn't be true if somebody was picking up the sport later in life. They would have to get, obviously, the skill along with the fitness. What do you think about that?
It's a really good point because there's this little local wave that I go to when I'm not on crutches, but the skill's there, and then I find that if I don't cross train or have the endurance,
Yep.
my my sessions are limited, and so I'm only getting like a couple of really good rides, and then if I push it hard, little joints and little things start hurting more. And
Hmm.
so I think it's an absolute fair thing, is especially like, I'm 45 now. And so as you move, I mean, EJ's kind of a freak, but
Yeah. Yeah. You don't use him as your example, right?
I know. But staying, I think his fundamental is staying in good shape.
Exactly right.
That was
Yeah,
always
that's the lesson to be taken from EJ is never stop moving.
That's right. Yeah, the old physics thing: a body at rest stays at rest, a body in motion stays in motion. And I think for me personally, I have to go through that and understand, let my body rest for a little bit, but then realize I got to come stronger out of it at the end.
Yes.
And just what that means is different for everybody.
Sure.
And so but yes, that's, I think, absolutely fair, is that I feel really good when I've done my proper weights, my proper exercises, and I'm in good shape where I'm, riding my bike a bunch. That's, I can paddle better at the end of the
Right.
day and not get injured.
Yep. Yep. For sure. Well, speaking of advice, now this is the Pucon Kayak Retreat Pro Flow hot tip. And not going to say you were the first, but definitely with winning that first big air competition, you were one of the first people to kind of get dialed in. It's one thing to be on a big ass wave that bounces you, but another thing to know the technique of how to launch your boat, how to get air, and then how to do, tricks in the air. And you've kind of come up with some strategies and techniques of how people can learn those on smaller waves and then transition those if they ever do get to go to a place like the Ottawa or the Slave or the New River Dries or whatever. So what is the Rusty Sage Pro Flow hot tip on getting big air?
Yeah, no, I'm fortunate. I mean, a lot of folks have like a small wave nearby them. I think one of them, like on the Ottawa, I remember Push Button.
Yeah.
And here's in Coloma's this thing called Barking Dog. And so Barking Dog's just this small little pocket hole, and you can surf it on a surfboard and stuff like that. But really, that's what I learned on. And also going out into the ocean in a surf kayak, but really, generating those speeds, coming back, starting on a small wave, and it really fine tuned. So like for at least my particular wave and a lot of little ones I've been on, little strokes make big differences. Little edging make really big differences. So if you're able to get that speed and do that blunt, or do that thing and connect it and stay on, then you're like, okay, I can do that again. I can do that backwards.
Right.
And well, let me get up, get a little bit higher. Let me see if I can do whatever, take my paddle off and do it with my hand. And so then you just doing these little tiny movements every time you're doing those fine little body weight, where your weight's going and all of that small. So then when you get on the big one, all of a sudden that those little movements can have big differences. And
Right.
so that's what really brought it to me was, I've been on the barking dog and doing blunt since, the Eskimo kendo days. And, and so you work on that all the time. And then you go up to the slave 4 years later, and then I'm able to get that speed and go at the top of the pile and see, okay, here we go. And those little movements, then it allows a little bit more time in the air, be able to adjust, be able to land it. That right stroke when you come and you land it, like there's a certain stroke that'll get you just a little bit back over there.
Yep.
So those little things that you do on the little waves, working on those and expanding the trick matrix inside of that is just going to help you with the bigger waves as well. So definitely
Love it.
start small, micro moves, micro weight distributions make a big difference.
Love it. Well, Rusty, you want to run some rapids together now?
Sure.
All right. So this is our rapid fire segment. This is their Mount Rushmore. So I'm going to throw out a topic of kayaking, and you've got to give me your top 3 to 5 from these topics.
Okay.
All right. Rivers of California.
I mean, there's so much to unpack there. I'd say that for High Sierras, it's going to be West Cherry and Fantasy Falls, and then those are kind of the two that stick out as far as real key moments of anybody's career to hit those. And then two kind of local ones is South American, South Fork. Got to throw that out there. That's where kind of everything's based on, how you get there, and then South Yuba. And I know that that's 4, but South Yuba, there's a lot there to be able to expand paddlers' careers and potential on that river. And that's, when it runs, it's, from top to bottom. There's so many things in South Yuba that is incredible.
Awesome. Countries of all time to paddle in.
Oh, I mean, like Canada. Canada is one of the top ones. New Zealand is a top one for sure. Those are, of course, the United States, but Canada, New Zealand stick out at top. And then, it's a continent, so it's hard to say, but Africa, there's a variety of, call it, Zambia is like your classic, but there's others in Uganda and those are, but Canada, I always kept finding myself back in Canada.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
And speaking of a lot in Canada, some of these might show up here. Your favorite waves to surf?
Ugh.
River waves.
Yeah, river waves.
Or tidal waves if you.
Yeah, no, I mean the ocean is definitely like there's a couple of ocean spots that stick out in mind. Scotts Creek and Davenport are on the West Coast that are all time. But as far as ocean waves, river waves, Montreal, Mavericks, I think is probably, it's just hard to get to, but it's one of the best waves that's out there. We went to one in Manitoba. I can't remember. There's this little river that's like super small, super smooth. So that was, the Manitoba wave was pretty amazing. And of course the Slave had that like edge of disaster. I can't remember the name of it, but the Slave River is all time. I've never hit Ottawa during the spring melt. So like bus heater, mini bus, always, etc. But I think those, so I haven't surfed those. So, but those are the ones that come to mind to me immediately.
Kayakers of all time.
Well, you have multiple disciplines. So, I mean, I think, of course, in my world, it would probably be EJ.
Yep.
He's got to be the top. He helped kind of train me to help me get to that level of good to great. As far as expedition, there's they probably hit me from putting them both in the same category, but, Scott Lindgren and Ben Stokesbury. I
Yeah.
mean, those two have really pushed the limits on a variety of aspects of what's feasible in expedition. And I look up to those guys a lot, both of them.
Yeah.
And so those are, and then in the slalom world, I mean, then there's Jessica Fox and her dad, Richard. I mean, but just watching Jessica, and I had a kidney, or I have a kidney issue, and watching her go through, it's an interesting challenge that some kayakers have is kidneys. Like things happen, and watching her go through that, and she's coming back now, and she came back, 0.2 of a second off the first place. But yeah, so I'd say, the Fox family.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So this next rapid, we're going to run blind. So it's a blind ranking. I'm going to throw it's top 5. I'm going to throw out 5 boat designs, and you got to place them, with one being of these 5 would be your favorite, 5th would be your 5th favorite, but you don't know what's coming next.
Copy.
All right. So I know you were a wave sport guy back in the day, so I'm going to kind of stick with that genre. The stubby.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the other ones are.
Right.
But
that's why it's blind. So
yeah, no, I'd put stubby as number 4.
Okay.
Number 1 being the top.
Right. So. Yeah. Number 1's gonna be your favorite. We'll go a little bit more modern. The Antics 2.0.
I will admit I do have an Antics 3.0.
Okay. Well, we'll go 3.0 then.
Okay. 3.0. Oof. I'm going to say 2.
Okay. All right. Not leaving a whole lot of room there, because there's still some big ones on the table.
I know.
The Diesel.
Ooh, small or large?
Whichever. We'll
take a large Diesel. Number 3. I'll do 3.
Okay. So you only got 1 and 5 left. Triple X.
I had good times and I had bad times in the Triple X, because I don't know. Now I'm going to go 5.
Okay. And I saved this one for you. The X.
I know. That's why it's open. Yeah, number 1.
Yeah. Good thing I didn't say Mirage, right?
Yeah, right. I know.
Godzilla.
No, that's fair. Yeah, no, I've been very impressed with the Antics 3.0.
It looks really good.
It's good. Very impressed.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so now final flow, Rusty. So if you're as a father, there's so many things we do as the last time. We don't know it's the last time a lot of times. But if the river gods come down and they say this is your last time ever in a kayak, that's the bad news. The good news is you get to be any age, any skill level, and you get to be on any river, and you get to be in any boat, and you get to pick your crew.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's going to be that. I mean, I would say call it mid to late 30s.
Okay.
Fantasy Falls crew, very similar crew that we had last time. It'd be, Jason Hale, Ben Coleman, Johnny, Carson, Lewis, Taylor Robertson, Little Dave. That would kind of leave a good space, a good memory, or like a good way to kind of send it out.
Love it. Any particular boat or just whatever floats?
Oh, boat. It would, OG. I like my OG.
Waka OG.
Waka OG. Yeah.
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 Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a pretty epic final flow with a pretty epic crew there. And when you drop in little Dave and Jason Hale, that's kind of some guys from my neck of the woods there too in days.
Oh
So,
yeah.
and I know they're kind of California transplants now a little bit, but
Yeah, no, they're I talk to them often. They're definitely as we get older, our friends, we have friends everywhere, but then like your true friends kind
yeah,
of don't grow as much, and they're definitely part of the true friend crew.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Rusty, thanks so much for being on B-Flow Sessions, and thanks for everything you continue to do in the sport, especially with young people and getting them involved. And continued best of luck on your rehab on your knee, and we can't wait to see you back on the water.
Awesome. Well, Brad, thank you so much for having me, and appreciate being able to speak to what's going on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of B-Flow Sessions, where we explore how paddlers find their flow on the water and in life. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show, leave a rating, or share it with a friend. It truly helps us grow the community. And a huge thank you to Pucon Kayak Retreat for sponsoring today's episode. If you're ready for a world-class Chilean whitewater adventure, email me at bflowkayak@gmail.com and I'll help you get dialed in. Until next time, keep finding your flow.